Hi guys, here's Jill. Okay, today what I wanted to talk about, it's kind of a huge theme, and what I want to talk about is how to make friends as an expat, or as in like when you move as a first time living abroad or whatever. I've started over in two cities in Canada. I've started over in, oh man, like a lot, probably let's say five international cities, and then coming to Germany now 4 years ago. This has by far been the hardest because the cultural differences are just insane as far as meeting people. In Canada, it's like very open and very fast, and here it is the opposite of that, I will say. It is sort of notoriously difficult, I would say, Germany. And then where I am is sort of the far, far northeastern corner of the country, and it is hard. Like even Germans come and are like, it's so hard to meet people here. It's hard. So I know there's a lot of tips out there that about like how to make friends, and I think the problem is that a lot of them, like they're good at, it's good advice. It's good advice. It's just that I think when you're an expat, when you first move somewhere, I think there's just so many things you're dealing with. When it's like, just join a club, and you're just like, well, I don't even know what my sport is in this new language, or it's just different. It's just, and you just have this whole exhaustion that comes from just being somewhere new, and it's just hard. I guess I'm telling you this stuff, keeping in like thinking, assuming that you are maybe a little bit older, maybe like in your older, like, you know, kind of late 20s, 30s, 40s. And because if you're not, then the advice is easy. You just go to a hostel and then drink with people, and then you'll have best friends for the rest of your life. That's fine. So, but it's different as you get older. And I noticed that when I was traveling as a like kind of a 29, 30-year-old woman, it was very different because everybody else there is 18, and I wasn't. Anyways, so those are those things. The other things to keep in mind, and the other things I think are important to know, is that you are with your partner, and that's great, and they might have friends, and they might be really nice people, but that doesn't mean that they're your people or your friends. And I think that that's something really important to keep in mind. I think sometimes people think, well, I should be fine because I have all these people around me, but that loneliness comes because you haven't found your people yet. You can find that, like, you can just meet people and be around people, and that does help, but it's not the answer. And that's why you feel lonely, because you still are looking for your people, and that's okay. Don't feel bad about that, and don't feel like you're being ungrateful, or just, I don't know, just don't even think about it, because you're not doing anything wrong, and it's hard. So obvious tips that you've probably got if you've looked anywhere else: learn the language. Number one, especially if it's a different language. If it's your own language, you don't need to learn it. Is a really good way to meet people that are in a similar situation. I would recommend taking classes in a university if you can, just because you get a different type of people there, and it's just nice. But I mean, I guess the key is you want to find people who are like you. So if meeting university people would be fun for you, then do that. Whatever. Even if you're not religious, religious groups are actually awesome, because they're so welcoming, and especially if you have kids, because I had my child when I was first moved here, and it was hard. It was so hard. And I was so thankful for all the like religious groups that had mother child days, like, or events. It was just like, it was so nice, even though I'm not at all religious, but it was just like, I was so thankful for that stuff. And I even, like, when I first moved here, before I had a child, I was even like, maybe I should just start going to church just to be around people, because sometimes you're just so lonely. You're like, oh God, help me. Anyway, so clubs, classes, oh, and work. Obviously working any like waitressing, jobs that are sort of notoriously always available, and kind of like, they can be fun. And I think that that's a really good way, one, to practice your language skills. You're getting into these repetitive things, and then also you just gives you a chance to meet people. So those are my obvious tips. So actual tips that actually help you make friends in a new country when you're trying to figure it all out. Number one, fake it till you make it. It's a great rule for so many things, but this one is like, it is so important when you're making friends. It is just like dating. It's like weird and stressful and hard. And I guess the thing you have to think about is, would somebody want to be friends with me? So that means wake up in the morning, have a shower, put on clothes, be like, whatever. Just go forward with who you are, but like your very best self. Don't like go outside with like makeup down your eyes and like jogging pants and be like, I don't have any friends. Um, because people don't want to be friends with that person. It's just like when you're dating. You don't want to date like the lonely, sad person. You want to date somebody that looks like they're having fun. They look like, and so even if you're not feeling that way, try as much as you can to pretend like you are. Um, and just to try to stay positive. I think it's important for your head, and it's important for other people when they see you and get to know you. Second tip: go repetitively, persistently, continuously to the same places. I know for me, that's like here, it's insane the way that they are. Like you have to go, like, I feel like you have to go somewhere like 100 times before someone will even acknowledge you as a regular. But I think other places, other rules, keep going to the same places. You become familiar. They might start to, know your name. And it's just nice to go in somewhere and feel like you're being, I don't know, just it starts to feel like kind of more of a comfortable place because you're going there so often. I think that like when you're traveling, it's so different. You're like, I've got to check out all the new places and I've got to do all this stuff. And that's true. But once you're living somewhere, it's different rules. Don't keep trying to be an adventurer because you're just going to be exhausted. So keep going to the same places, say hello to the same people, go to the same grocery store, go to the same shops, like just keep going, go to the same coffee shop, just try to get some sort of consistency. Like that really helps. I remember I used to go to the same coffee shop, and I remember one day this guy was like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, Canada. And he's like, I know this girl from Canada that lives here. And I was like, sweet, tell her to call me. And now we're friends. And like, that's crazy. And it was, I think, just because I was just always there. And so they get to know you and they feel comfortable like with approaching you because you become familiar to them too. The biggest thing, it's kind of connected to fake it till you make it. Find something, just anything that you're passionate about, that you care about, just a hobby you can just throw yourself into, because it's hard because you're probably depressed, and that's normal because you're trying to start over and you're like, what is happening with everything? But just find something, like learn how to code websites, like I learned how to play the ukulele. Just do whatever you need to do to keep yourself, just to keep going, just so you don't feel like such a just so hopeless. And also then you're interesting. People are like, what do you do? And instead of being like, I sit at home alone and cry, then you can say like, oh, I'm just learning the ukulele, and people are like, oh, she seems fun. Oh, okay, and you just gives you something like learn how to draw. I don't care what it is. Just find something that you can just throw yourself into. Kind of ties into point number 4. Keep moving. Try to just keep up the momentum, because what happens when you get depressed is that's when you lose that momentum. And I say this because I think that, like, obviously being depressed and not having friends, they're 100% connected. And so you have to just keep going. Just do whatever you have to do. Wake up in the morning, go outside. Even if you just walk around the block for like 10 minutes, it's just so important to keep you moving and keep you going. And that momentum is so important for meeting people, because if you're not going outside, guess how many chances you have to meet people. So the other thing is kind of going back to one of my initial points, is that when you I guess just don't be ashamed that just because you know people doesn't necessarily mean that you have friends. You know what I mean? Like going every day to a ballet class and finding really nice people there, that's great. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have friends, even though it's, and maybe you will, maybe friendships will come out of that, but that's like sort of tied in with keeping momentum going. The last point that I think is actually really helpful is be really careful about using your relationships back home. Obviously rely on your friendships because you need something to get through this, but I think you have to be careful that your friendships don't become, you on like WhatsApp or Snapchat or whatever on your phone talking to people at home. Like that's not those aren't like, they're, I mean, incredibly important for your well-being, but also just be careful that you don't rely so much on those friendships that you don't need to or want to build new friendships in your new place. Yeah, that's tricky. Don't be afraid to be kind of a dork. Like, you can just be like, hey, I'm new here, I'm Jill. Blah. Like, I do this all the time. I'm like, people here aren't like super friendly. Like, I'm go up to people, I'm like, hey, I noticed you had a baby and I had a baby. My name is Jill. Maybe I'll see you around. Like, so weird and creepy. But you know, like I literally did that to somebody and she still talks to me. Like, she's still, to this day, we see each other on the street and she's like, oh, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And she seems really nice. Like, are we best friends? No, not yet. You don't know. But it's just something. And I mean, I think you can get away with a lot when you have like your cute little foreign accent. You can be like, you know, or I speak English and help me. And they can be really nice about it. And I think just sometimes having familiar faces around helps you feel more accepted and more comfortable. 3 big don'ts. Number 1, don't constantly compare where you are with where you were, with where you used to live, and how much better it was at home, or just being like, this is a shitty town, I hate this town. That nobody cares. Like, just stop doing that. It's hard. It's just bad for you. Nobody around you wants to be around you if you're just talking about how terrible their home is, their country is, and nobody wants to be around you if you're, you know, like, if you're just like, everything's the worst here, back home everything was the best. Boring and just not helpful. Like, move on. Just don't do that. That's terrible. Number 2, the other thing, don't stay at home and hide. I remember doing this. I remember my first time sitting down with a big group of people, and I had been here for a few months, and I remember sitting down and everyone was like laughing and telling jokes, and I was just sitting there, and then everyone was laughing, and then they explained the joke to me, and and then they were watching, you know, waiting for you to laugh, and it wasn't funny. And I pretended to laugh, and then I just went inside and just laid in bed and cried, and then watched a whole season of New Girl, because I don't even know why I'm just telling sad stories. I guess just don't try to keep going. I mean, of course, take your moments that you need, but keep going outside. Because even sometimes the tiniest little thing can make such a big difference. Like saying hi to that lady in the street like a weirdo. You know, like, it's just this little thing, but those little things, if you do those little things every day, it does kind of all comes together and it all comes back. So just tiny things every day, even if it's just going to the store, buying something and coming back. You did it. People saw you. You're like, yeah, I'm awesome. I bought juice. And then then you can come back and lie in bed, and that's fine. The other thing is the big number 3, do not think that going home is going to solve all your problems. It's just such a dangerous way to start thinking, because you stop living where you are and you start living in the past. You start living in this imaginary future, and none of it's sort of real. Everything that you left at home is no longer the same. And you have to kind of embrace that, accept that, and try to just be where you are right now. It is hard. Oh, believe me, I know. It is hard. And it is lonely, like next level loneliness that I have never, ever experienced in my life. It is hard. But don't start second guessing all your choices. Don't start saying, oh, why did I do this? This is so stupid. I should have never left. I should just go home where everything will be fine. And the thing is it won't be fine, because you're going to always wonder, could I have made it? And I think the thing that's so tricky is you get to this point when it gets so hard, and then it gets easier. And then you've done something, and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, how did I even do that? That was crazy. And then, but then you get through it and it gets easier. And the more time and energy you put into it, it just gets better and better, and it gets easier. So just know it's hard for everyone. It's not just you. Even though you're lonely, you're not alone. And try not to get too down on yourself. Just keep going. So that's all I have to say about that. Hopefully this is helpful. If anyone else has tips, I would be really interested to hear them. And that's everything. So take care, guys, and I'll talk to you again in the next video. Bye.